I am so excited to be here with Patricia Lohan. Thank you for coming on the show.
You're so welcome. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
And now we're both in red.
We are. I wore my red just because, I was going to be talking to you, Sigrun. You know I love red anyways. But I just thought, I've nowhere to go, but I may as well dress up and look good and wear my new red blouse.
Absolutely. Yeah. Finding a reason to dress up, even if you're not leaving the house.
Exactly. And me and you like socializing, so we do. So it was a good excuse.
Yeah. So where are you right now?
I'm in Ireland.
You're in Ireland. You're back in Ireland.
Yeah, back in Ireland now. Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to talk about, the last 12 months. Maybe we even have to go further back, talk about the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. I have been interviewing a lot of female entrepreneurs, all the women that I know. We typically start back in March, what was going on. But just before we hit record or live on this show, you told me we might even need to go further back to understand what was going on in your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 2019, I feel like was our COVID. And that's why people are like, how are you getting on? Like, how has 2020 been for you? And I'm like, oh my God, so much better than 2019. So, I feel like I was on your podcast and everything was like going towards the sky. It was absolutely amazing. And we decided to change kind of tack. I think that I was going after like shiny object syndrome and like, let's try challenges, let's try this, let's try all these different things. And they didn't really hit the targets that we had been doing in previous launches. And we took on a new team and focused a lot on like building backend and the systems and tech. And it basically slowed us right down to nearly a standstill. And I had a huge then kind of just realization that the team we'd taken on were the wrong team and it was not the right fit at all for us. So in this time last year, myself and Ken were here. We had let go of our entire team. It was back to me and him. He had actually gone to get a job. He'd gone back to his old job. We were back in Ireland and we were like, if we're going to do this, like looking at where we are right now, he was like, I'm just going to go back to work. They're desperate looking for someone. I'm going to go into work. Let's just see what we can do. Yeah. So we were really starting from scratch. I felt like now, yeah. And one of the things that when I kind of thought we're starting from scratch, I have to lie because we had, we still have an amazing program with incredible results, but we were just not, we weren't getting the marketing right, and the targeting, and there was just a lot of things that we had kind of like focused so much on, like, oh no, we need to make sure our tech is right. And you know what, our tech would have been fine, but I didn't really listen to my own gut, and I let other people dictate, going like, you need to fix this and this and this and this, and I was like, do we really? Look, and we went with that. So last year in January, it was me and Ken. And I reached out to a friend of mine who was a marketing guy who'd been in a mastermind with me. And I was kind of like really pulling my hair out going like, what are we going to do? Like, am I just going to go back to consulting with clients one-to-one? We have this incredible program. And he said, just send me everything you've got. Like, send me what you were doing. Like, he didn't really know much. And it was actually great. He was a complete outsider. He just knew me personally. And he went through a lot of things and looked, and he kind of came back and had a call with me and Ken. And he was like, do you know what? Do you remember what you were doing last year and the year before? Go do that again. Like, don't fix it if it's not broken. So we actually started from scratch, and in the previous years of my, I'd been doing like Jeff Walker style launches. It's 4-part video series. They worked, like they always worked. And he goes, that worked for you. Go do it again. But instead of having, high-end videographers coming to record everything, it was me with my iPhone here recording them on my iPhone with a little microphone and a few lights around the office. And I took 1 or 2 people on Upwork to help me with the tech stuff a bit to get some of the pages up, use what we had. Like, we kind of used them. And that was what we did in February. We did a launch in February, and that kind of like got us started again. And that, so we were starting really from scratch.
Lesson to share, and thank you for being so honest and transparent.
Yeah, no problem.
To hear this too. Like, basically, you had something that was working, and then you thought you needed to do something different.
Yeah.
Is this typical?
Yeah. Totally. So that really was a huge, it's just, you know what, I feel like we had such a huge education, because from that place then it started to look at us becoming way more conscious about the people that we brought onto our team. Then we ended up leaving Ireland and going to Bali. And we got to Bali and Ireland had gone into lockdown at that stage. And my community is mostly in Ireland. So we like, and actually all over the world, but there just seemed to be a lot at that time kind of, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do something high vibe. And I decided to do a challenge for the group. And it went amazing. It was a positive, keeping everyone in a good space. And that was just a trial, but we knew we were just testing. Like it was a different part of like, this isn't something that's like that. You know, we were like, we're going to test this and see. It felt really good to support our audience in that way. And I wasn't going to open the doors to our program, but actually everyone's sitting at home. I teach Feng Shui. What are the things we can control right now in this world? We can control our mindset, our bodies, and our homes. Like, let's focus on our homes. So that worked really well. And we did a 5-day challenge. But in the middle of that challenge, I was like trying to juggle everything, like stuff that I had never even been doing in my business before, like scheduling all the emails. Like I had a VA from the very beginning, like scheduling things. And I was like, I don't know how to do this. And because then the other thing is we had transported over to this new systems. So in the past, I would have kind of had to new things, but like Active Campaign was totally new to me. ClickFunnels was totally new to me, because our old team had brought everything over and kind of like left us. And then we're like,
left with a new system. You don't know it yet.
And I didn't even know it yet. So I had this like moment going like, I need some more help. And we did take on someone then to help us and an OBM, and that changed things again. And an assistant. So we've been really slowly like building our team again. And that then rippled. We did more launches, I think, this year than I would have, like in 2020, that I would probably like, because it's quite exhausting on the team, and especially when we're all just figuring it out together. Like they're not used to launching and all that. But we came back, and like in like in the beginning of 2019, we would have had like 100K launches, and by the end of this year, by the end of 2020, we'd had 2. So it was like we got our way, we got back to where we were.
You got back.
We got back to where we were.
So like really humbling for you personally and professionally, because you're always supposed to do bigger and better, and otherwise, it can hurt your self-confidence.
It can definitely hurt your self-confidence, and I felt myself holding myself back. But then what happens with me, especially when it comes to what we teach and the transformation I see in people's lives, is that like a lot of people, like when it comes into launch, I'm just like listening to all the testimonials, because you're looking at sales pages and you're creating everything. And that is where it gets really big, because it's like the clients who are like, of course I'll come on and do a video testimonial for you. Of course I'll come and share. Like, I want people to have the transformation that I've had. And that for me is like now such a big driving force of like, what are we doing to support this on a much longer time game? And, we touched on it at the beginning. You're like, launches have got longer. How are we supporting people in the longer term? And I think that's where we're getting better at that now. And we're looking much more long term in terms of supporting people. And, things that we didn't do last year was I wasn't consistently showing up, because we were scrambling to like, let's do this launch, kind of look after ourselves. Like, because one of the things as well, like, the joys of launching is that you have this consistent income coming in every month from the payment plans. But by the time January had come for us in 2019, our last kind of biggish launch had been like 6 months earlier. So our payment plans were like dwindling out. So it was like we were doing this to keep going. Whereas now it's like, oh, okay, now we have a little bit of a cushion going forward. We're able to see. And obviously we did the planning day, and I was like, how many times are we going to launch? What's the biggest thing? And how can we make our program more accessible on a regular basis? So on a more repeat focus. So yeah, it was a big lesson. So 2020 was like an amazing year for us. And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it was amazing because we learned so much. We became stronger as a team. We brought on new team members at a higher level who have just amazing attention to detail and, you know, kind of are brainier than me, which is always good. And just things like we've got someone who's helping me with copy. It's like identifying the things that I'm not good at and just getting someone to help with that, but probably not paying as much as I used to either, like definitely changing the spend on that.
Yeah. So it's kind of a turnaround, which is kind of the theme that I had when this whole happened in March. I was like, I used to be a turnaround CEO. Let me bring that back and talk about what you need to do in a turnaround, like cut so deep that it bleeds.
Literally.
And you were just describing what it feels like, you know, your husband going back to work or letting everyone go and feeling the pain of trying to figure out your systems that you suddenly have in front of you. So that's cutting so deep that it bleeds, but see how that works for you. People just need to hear it from someone else that this is actually a recipe for a turnaround when things are not working.
For sure. Yeah. And like for us, in terms of like turnaround as well, like other things that became a priority was that we paid ourselves wages. Like this was something that had not really been, like it had been, we'd kind of done it, but it became a priority in terms of like, if we're doing this business, we're gonna start paying ourselves wages. So if we look back in a whole year, we're like, we've paid ourselves wages, we've cleared debt, I've invested in a master, like the things that we still were able to achieve, earning less. Was like really powerful. And, you know, that painful thing of like letting go of someone who'd been on our team for years and her like, well, what about me? And I'm like, you don't understand. What about us? Like Ken has got to get a job. Like,
you know?
Yeah.
Wow. So when the lockdown hit, you were more like, you know, starting your turnaround, or you were making the first steps. You already had a first good launch. And then you just paid attention to your audience. You know, you were just taking care of your community. But when did the move come back in? Because I thought you were like, oh, she's going to stay in Bali. What happened?
So we were in Bali for a couple of months, and then the previous year in 2019, we'd spent a week in Greece, and we just fell in love with it. And I just love being by the sea. So we decided, let's go to Greece. And that was part of being in Bali for a while. And we're like, let's go to Greece. It's open. So we went to Greece and we fell in love. And it's one of the things that we've wanted, you know, Ken and I really want to have bases in different parts of the world. And part of this experiment the last few years has been living in different places, trying them out, and be like, is this a place that we want to have as a base? And you don't know until you spend a portion of time there. So we were in Bali. We love it. We have we've community and all of that. But it was like, we definitely want something closer to home, like closer to our family, by the sea. That's hot and sunny. And we went to Greece and we literally just fell in love. And that we were going for, I think, a month, and we ended up there until like November. And that was basically the reason we left Greece, was because there's nobody left. All the restaurants were closed. And it was like, because we go to a place that's quite touristy. So it was like, right, well, let's go back to Ireland now. So we've come back here for a bit. Yeah, for a little bit. And
it's COVID. You know, a lot of people have, for instance, moved back to Iceland. Countries. Suddenly you feel like, where do I want to be when everything is closed down and locked down? I want to be at my home, you know, where you see home.
Yeah, and part of that is also like for us, like last year, myself and Ken, like 2019 was so interesting because we took our house back from our tenants, and we took the house back. It had been absolutely destroyed, like in a really bad way. So we were trying to like build our house back to a great space as well. And you know, in the way, I don't know, COVID and 2019, but our house, when we left Ireland, we were like, we're going to put it on Airbnb. And everyone was like, you're mad, like COVID, like no one's going anywer. No. 98% occupancy in our house. And I was like, well, that's what you get with a feng shui house. I was like, I know. There was people coming who had to quarantine. There was people who had already organized redecorating the house that needed to move. There was people who wanted to live in a big house in the countryside in their same county because they're in an apartment, you know? So, you know, it's like we have a big half an acre in the hills, in the mountains. So it's like more space. So we had completely redecorated the house. It was all ready to go. And that was another part of this whole idea of having other income streams as well that would support us. And this one really worked well. But it was, again, a learning experience in terms of like team and the right people and looking after it. And, you know, so that was an amazing part of it, because we came back to this house in November and walked in, and it was as if we hadn't left. You know, it was perfect. It was spotlessly clean. It was looked after and tended to, because we worked on making sure that it was like solid, and we got super host and all 5-star reviews the whole time. So that's just been amazing. Like kind of other benefit part of like the business of, you know, when we're away, this also generates income for us.
Yeah. And do you plan to go back? Like what do you see happening?
I see Bali and Greece on the horizon, and hopefully Iceland.
Yes. Oh, crossing fingers for that to happen.
Ken is so excited about Iceland. He's just like, Iceland. So yeah, I do. And I see probably Bali and then Greece again, because I'm really connected to different places where it really is good for my soul, and those places definitely, you know, our launch in August, while in Greece, had like one of the I don't remember off the top of my head the conversion rate, but it was like the highest we'd had, and it was because I was in a place that I just felt, you know, I was like on fire, literally. So that can change. That really does make a big difference for me.
Yeah, your audience feels that when you are on fire, and everybody gets jealous. Oh, I wish she was doing it.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what are your plans for 2021?
So my plans for 2021 are actually really focusing on content creation, in terms of like really strong content creation. Like also last year we went through a whole rebrand. So we renamed our program from like Feng Shui Mastery.
I'm curious.
Mastery. Pardon?
Why did you rename your program?
Because I woke up. I woke up one day and I was like, it doesn't say what it means. It doesn't, you know, it's like, it does what it says on the tin. I was like, my course name doesn't say what it says. You know, yours is a Samba, Sigrun's online business thing. It doesn't do what it says in the tin. And so that was this huge epiphany. And, you know, I just like randomly picked that name. Like once when we were creating our program, I didn't know we were going to have hundreds of people doing it, creating an acronym for it. But I knew something needed to change, like with us changing so much. And just the energy of it was changing and stepping up to a new type of clientele, a new type of audience. And when the name came in, it was just like, yes. So we rebranded the course to PowerHouse and developed a PowerHouse Feng Shui, which came in hand with also being blocked on Facebook. So we didn't, our Facebook account got shut down, and it was like basically what happened was all our old ads by accident with some kind of reset were turned on, and all the old pages that didn't have the right like copy and blah, 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 blah were all wrong, and they were all blacklisted automatically. And it was like, because so many old ads were just like still there and they hadn't been deleted, they just were like, you're out. And so we got banned with our Facebook ads. So that also was then another journey in terms of like building the Facebook ads. And Ken now does the Facebook ads. My husband trained with the Facebook ads. So he's doing that. So that's kind of like a learning journey with both of us. And, you know, in the past, I would have just been like, they're doing the ads over there. I don't know anything about them. I don't know what's happening. We're just seeing the leads and the conversions. Whereas now it's like me and Ken sitting and brainstorming like, oh, I make a video for this, or pick a picture, or, you know, so that feels really good. So that's one of the things for us as well, is really focusing on better targeting and looking at our Facebook ads campaign, but then the content in terms of like blogs and YouTube. I just feel like, I'm realizing that, Feng Shui is a searchable term. Like people get up and search about it, like they ask questions about it. And that's something that we have not tapped into at all, like at all. Yeah. Yeah, at all, that we haven't really touched on at all. So that's kind of an exciting part to go through. And I think just getting support with that in terms of like doing the YouTube and then creating blogs and having more of that, more consistent action and more care for our existing people. And, I think, it's just our whole perception and working with what we're doing has changed a lot this year or from last year. But I would love to have our program available evergreen, like all the time. It is set up for that. It is available for it, but we just haven't had the chance to get it put together and sorted. And it's been kind of on my to-do list. So we have a launch coming up in the next, from next week before the Chinese New Year, which we do every year just around this Chinese New Year cycle. It's a good time for like a fresh start for people. So that will go ahead. And then I'm like, we are not launching until we have the evergreen up and running. Like there's no more launches until we are 100% that this program is going, because people are always asking me when can they join. We have it all set up. I do a call every week. It's not like there's a stop or a start with it. I support my people all year round. So that's one thing that we definitely want to do.
Do you feel there has been a resistance to it? Because I felt on my side, there was like a voice in my head saying like everything has to be live, everything has to be certain ways. Like, do you think you have resisted it in some way, or why was it on the back burner?
I think I definitely had a resistance to it, and whether it was because I'm really good live. I love doing live things. I love connecting with people, but I feel like right now I would like our business to be a bit easier, and because we're and streamlining. This last night, Ken and I were chatting about like we have lots of different options, and I definitely want to kind of narrow down and go. We have a program that totally transforms people's finances, their monies, their lives. Like I don't need to add loads and loads of more things if we can just really get this one, like building more people into it and learning. And when there's a lot of people in it, there's so much momentum and growth, and we have an incredible community. So that's what I want to do more. But it's taken me a while to get to that place of like, I just want it to be easier. And what I'm best at doing is showing up and, whether it's interviews or podcasts or media stuff, all of that, which I love, rather than in the nitty gritty of launching all the time. And then I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And then we're not giving people the rest, like we're big breaks before we can bring more people into the community and into the Feng Shui. So, I definitely had resistance.
Yeah.
But now I've like, because we've been on this like this for so long, I'm like, we need some kind of sense of consistency that we can focus on and grow. And I don't know whether it's just a place of more maturity that we're like, yes, this is gonna, yeah.
Possibly. You're in lockdown again. How are you feeling? How are people feeling about we are not in lockdown in Iceland. I'm in Iceland because Switzerland is a disaster. Iceland, we had 4 cases yesterday. So we are in a very fortunate situation there's never been a lockdown. There's just a slowdown, like you can be 10 people and things like that.
Yeah.
But how is it, how is your community dealing with it and you personally?
So I feel like because we've been like, people are like, you were so prepared for COVID like 5 years ago. And I was like, yeah, we have an online business. I think that's just being the real benefit of it, is the fact that we are used to working from home. That is a huge, big benefit that hasn't really impacted us too much, to be honest. In terms of like Ireland and the community, I don't really go out that much, so I don't really tap into it. For me, I kind of like my really big motto this time has been like looking after the span of control. My own mindset, my own health, my own well-being, and my own physical environment. And that, if we can really focus on those 3 things and really encouraging my community to like look after themselves and their mindset and looking after their health and their bodies and, getting fresh air, looking after their houses. That's where I've really focused my attention this time. And I think that's why I'm feeling, fine. I'm like, oh, okay, that's happened. It's okay. It's unprecedented times, but like, how can we manage it best for ourselves? And that's where I've been really focused.
Yeah. And part of it is dressing up for an interview.
Yeah. Putting on my red lipstick and my earrings and being like, I'm going to look so nice for my talk to Sigrun. And, one thing is just like even connecting with people. One of the things I did was in a mastermind that we're in is that I actually like set up weekly calls with every single week as part of it, because I was like, I just want to connect with like-minded people and keep, moving forward. And, when it first started, my whole thing was like, how can I serve my audience? I was creating like sets of like meditations for them and like, just keep yourself calm, look after yourself, all that's going on outside, but we have amazing, immense power within us.
We do. Do you have a word for the year?
Do I have a word for the year? No. Well, I think I did, but I can't remember it. Well, one of the words was scale. And then I was just like, scale easily. 2 words.
Scale easily. Okay, 2 words. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Patricia.
Thank you so much.
For 2021.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And thank you so much.